of District 74. Welcome to session number 9 of the L.E.A.D Executive Development Programme. Who would have known that we would now be on session number 9? When we started, we were thinking, 10 weeks of us meeting every Saturday from 6 p.m. until 8 p.m. Central Africa time. And just for housekeeping, please just make sure that you have renamed yourself to make sure that the name that you registered yourself with for the program is the name that's reflecting in this Zoom session. We use it for purposes of our register, and make sure that you are muted at all times in case there's some feedback with where you are. I'll also encourage you to turn on your videos so that as we communicate, we are able to see your face as we go on with our program. And so last week we had session number 8, which was time and stress management balance, which we were taken through by Granny B. And so I want to hear feedback from you. We had the questionnaire that she sent to us for us to work through. What was your experience as you worked through that questionnaire and answered the questions? Or if you were not in the meeting and you were able to go through the replay, what were your takeaways from last week's session? You can either raise your hand, or if you'd want to unmute, please go right ahead. This is our feedback session before we get into the program for today. Any volunteers on what we covered last week, which was time and stress management, bringing balance to our lives? Thank you, Toastmaster Edith. I see your hand. Please unmute and give us your feedback.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, DTM, Sivai, and everybody on the call. I was not present, so I got to listen through to the lesson via YouTube. And my biggest takeaway from it, actually there were 2, regarding stress management and time management. I think for me, stress is caused by, or especially in work situation, by my inability to say no, and with family as well. So you keep on saying yes, yes, yes. So the technique that I picked up from the session was to tell people, I'll come back to you. And then that gives me time to check my schedule and I think calm down, because sometimes you are too excited about a project and then you just say yes, only to find that you can't make it. You can't even attempt it. So I have employed that technique to say, I'll come back to you and then check if what is required of the project, will I be able to manage? And where, okay, that takes care of stress management, because now it takes away my plate being full. So by doing that, I will eliminate all the unnecessary stress and unwanted pressure. And then with time management, the 4 quadrants, the agent, that things have to be done now, it's important, and all that. I'm still working around it, especially with family. Again, not my immediate family, but the uncles and everybody else who, when they say this needs to be done, they say it's now. So you can't postpone. So I'm still working around labeling things according to the 4 quadrants and with the time that I have available. But it was very, very insightful. I listened to it, I think, over 3 times just to make sure I got everything right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Edith, for having gone to the replay and gone through that module. And like you were saying, it was very insightful. And that time management matrix, the urgent, important, not urgent, but important, not important, but urgent, and then not important, not urgent. And like you're saying, the extended family, kind of like are so used to making their demands on a lot of us, and you feel bad to say, look, this is one of your elders, and you can't exactly tell them, no, wait, I'll get back to you. You kind of like just keep saying yes. But it's something that we need to keep working on, because that ability to then say no, you then find the important, urgent matters then don't suffer because you're busy doing something that probably you could even have delegated to somebody else. So thank you so much for your feedback, Toastmaster Edith. Do we have others who would want to give what they took away, what they've started implementing when it comes to time and stress management, bringing balance to your life? So whether you were in the session or you watched the replay or you just got to do the complete the questionnaire. Toastmaster Andrew, I see your hand. Please go ahead.
Good evening, Savaya and everybody. My greatest takeaway, okay, I only watched it about 2 hours ago, and I think I fell asleep at the end. But the greatest takeaway I found, and what I got out of it, was planning our days. And one of the things I found was, if you plan your day or your week, it takes 15 minutes to write down what you want to do during the week. And then you reflect on it every day, maybe take 5 minutes and see how you've done. When you do that, you're liable to achieve more and be able to see where you have managed to reach your goals. I know I used to do this about 6 months ago, and I found that you had more control of your time and you had more control over your emotions. And I found it wonderful, to know what you've done in the day. Okay, sometimes you don't even make it to do all those goals that you do. Just 2 or 3 goals a day, I found. And that's what it spoke to me, what I heard today. Just to go back and just plan your week every day. On a Sunday night evening, say 15 minutes, plan your week and just reflect on it every day. And I believe I will achieve more again. Thank you.
Thank you, Toastmaster Andrew. And if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. And I believe each and every one of you, and being leaders, you don't want to fail. And so that aspect of plan your days ahead, and on a Sunday, have a look at what you're doing for the week. And then you're just focusing each day to say, okay, this is what I need to do. End of day review, have I done it? And you move on to the next day. You definitely end up achieving and doing more than you had been doing if you had not been planning your days, because we all have the same amount of time in terms of the hours, but it's what we are doing with that time. So it's not really your time management, but you're managing the activities that are in the time that you have. So thank you, Toastmaster Andrew, for your feedback and for having gone through the recording. I can take one more person. If you'd want to raise your hand and give us your feedback, whilst I also just check in the chat box. Okay, we have feedback from Toastmaster Gajador. The key learning from last session are stress management is best achieved by 1, recognizing their root causes. Number 2, by knowing to say no. Number 3, by not being self-critical. Okay, I had been muted, sorry about that. Number 4, by creating a network of go-to, which is a list of known solutions for known problems. On the other hand, time management is best done with a time matrix in 4 quadrants, wherein we schedule our big rocks based on their urgency, criticality, and importance. Then from Toastmaster Lynette, this was a reminder to plan properly and then focus on what is important, but not yet urgent. If you manage that successfully, you will keep urgent and important items to a minimum. Marilise, Toastmaster Marilise says, my takeaway is to learn to say no. Currently, I'm busy on a big project, and though I have blocked out my work calendar, I still get asked to get involved or to assist others. And by saying no in a polite way, so you're not being rude, I have been able to focus all my attention on the project and will get to assist once the project has been finalized. Thank you for your feedback. Toastmaster Luxolo, I see your hand. Please go ahead.
Thank you, DTM Zavai. Greetings, fellow Toastmasters, fellow leaders. My takeaway from the session, I've always known that I am not able to use a diary. And I've seen people claiming to know how to use the diary, but I know that a diary is not a notebook. So it's been used more as a notebook than a diary. And I've admitted years ago that I can't use the diary. So my takeaway was from that video that was shared, and I figured out that, okay, I need just to refine what I'm doing, because if I plan what is key, the coming things will not flood that. So it has assisted me in aligning my goals. And when I do a plan, I sometimes plan long term, so that alignment to me works. So now I'm even more comfortable to say I'm not able to use a diary, and I don't even want to know how to use it the way it's supposed to be. I'm fine with the calendar, and my to-do list works better than a diary. Thank you, Titia.
Thank you, Toastmaster Luxolo, for giving us your feedback and getting to do what works for you. Because sometimes what works for somebody else may not necessarily be what works for you. So as long as you are then managing those activities that you are needing to get done, and you are getting the desired results, then that way you are being effective in what you are doing. Our session number 9 this evening is on motivational, inspirational communication. And our facilitator for today, our speaker trainer, is an extremely experienced and dedicated Toastmaster who epitomizes the spirit and values of Toastmasters International. During her Toastmasters journey, Karen's passion for excellence, outstanding organizational skills, and her ability to lead high-performing teams in a volunteer environment has proven to be a real asset to the Toastmasters organization. She is well known in Toastmasters community for going above and beyond the requirements of the role she has been assigned. In her professional life, Karen has worked in the financial services industry since 1989 and has held various learning and development leadership roles where her teams of trainers were able to help staff in companies like Alexander Forbes, LR Group, and Standard Bank to build their knowledge and skills to reach their full potential. During her tenure in Toastmasters, she has achieved many very notable achievements, including area governor, who are now known as area directors, and she got the Area Governor of the Year award in 2010 and the District 74 Toastmaster of the Year award twice, 2005 and 2011. She has immersed herself in every aspect of Toastmasters, from contributing to her home club, which was selected as top club in District 74 during her year as president, to regularly visiting and starting other clubs, coaching individual members, supporting and coaching struggling clubs, and developing and facilitating training for club and district officers. She was nominated as the club growth director in the 2016-2017 Toastmasters year and was knocked out by a narrow margin on the third round of voting. She believes that by choosing to get involved and learn in the safe environment Toastmasters offers, she has been able to stretch herself far beyond her own boundaries and grow her skills and career faster than she would have been able to do in her workplace alone. Karen has achieved the highest level in Toastmasters, known as the Distinguished Toastmaster, twice in the traditional legacy program, and is working on her third in the Pathways program. Help me to welcome Distinguished Toastmaster Karen Levy-Strauss as she takes us through motivational, inspirational communication. Over to you, DTM, Karen.
Thank you so much, Savai, Toastmaster Savai. I'm really, really honored to be with you today. And Savai, I'm just checking that you are going to be my co-presenter, because I'm going to need somebody to help with the chat and to help me to facilitate that. Is that okay with you?
Yes, that's fine. If I happen to get bombed out, Toastmaster Selena is my backup. She'll be able to then pick up as well.
Fantastic. And please also confirm that you can see my presentation.
Not yet, but I'm sure it should load.
It's appearing on my side.
It's appearing your side, so probably it's my side then.
Sure.
Okay, now I see it. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. The world as we know it is changing. The workplace as we know it is changing. The people of the world are changing, and the way we learn is changing. And this requires that we have inspirational leadership. It's critical. And where do we learn to be inspirational and motivational? Of course, that's with Toastmasters, where leaders are made. Ladies and gentlemen, during this session today, we are asking you to engage with us. I'm not going to be here to lecture. This is going to be an engaging model and helping us to help each other through the process. So in line with those virtual norms, I'm asking you to please maximize your presence by switching off your phone and your email, and to be fully present with us today so that you can share your knowledge and skills as well with this audience. It really is your learning, so it's your responsibility to ask for what you need and for what you want. Please maximize your participation by keeping it simple and to the point so that we give everybody an opportunity to also share. I'm really asking you to please stay on mute unless you are asked to unmute and add your point of view. During this session, we'll be using two ways of communicating. The first is whenever you see this little icon on my slide, it means that I'm wanting you to type something up into the chat box. And the question will appear on the slide, and you are to answer that question in the chat box. When you see this talking circle sign, it means that I'm going to ask Toastmaster Zavai or Selena to please select somebody from the audience to give us a response to the question or to the statement that is being asked on the screen. This way, we all get an opportunity to engage. I see we have a number of people, and so we want to make it fun and engaging for everybody. If we start out with leadership, there are a number of different aspects in leadership that you will cover through this LEAD program. The one we're going to focus on today is about inspiring and motivating. And I really want to unpack that a little for you, because your role as an inspirational leader in Toastmasters and the world in general is really to secure an increased commitment from the people that follow you. Your leadership in Toastmasters specifically requires that you extract empowerment and accountability from your followers, and that you try and maximize the commitment of the people that you're leading. There are really three things that make your embodiment and execution of your leadership role really important. And the first of these is that we really operate in very uncertain and turbulent time at the moment. And our common enemy is that people have very limited time. We have a lot of energy. And so the more we can give people certainty about what we want from them, the more we will be able to inspire them. And so you, as a leader in these times, have to inspire mighty love for this organization. You need to inspire major resilience for your teams, and you need to encounter or try and get into place deep trust with your followers. And so that's what our followers, but really what our followers need from us and from you specifically is a greater sense of certainty and a way to fill up their energy tanks, as well as create a sense of belonging. And I really think that that is something that Toastmasters epitomizes, and yet as leaders, we are the ones that are driving that inspiration and that motivation. Second of all is that, you know, it's not about what Toastmasters offers to our membership. It's about what you personally as a leader offer to the people that you are leading. You know, leader rather than because of the organization. And so think about that from an inspiration point of view. And you know, further on from that, if anything COVID has taught us, it's that we really have to be able to take the best of what's happened to us in life and be able to share that with the people that we're leading and that we're inspiring. This leadership is about, first and foremost, getting yourself inspired, getting yourself to a place where you're able to lead your team and to be able to take us through these turbulent and difficult times. And then thirdly, what you have to do is, you know, that the only thing here, these tough times at some point will come to an end. But the second point here is that the only thing that's certain there is the way that you showed up as a leader will be the story that lives on and leaves a legacy behind you. So how are you going to be doing that? How are you showing up as a leader today? How are you? Who are you? Is going to become the important point here. And the question that our followers are going to ask us, and that you, your family, are going to ask us, and that you need to answer here, is that when everything around you and in you is tested to its nth degree, how did you show up as that leader? And so moving on, let's then start to unpack a little of what is inspiration and what is motivation. So what is the difference? Type into the chat for us. What is the difference, do you think, between motivation and inspiration? as a leader, how will you differentiate between these two things? And Toastmasters, if you'll please just tell me what people are typing into the chat. Anything yet?
Nothing as yet. Okay. Toastmaster Hannah says, inspire, walk the talk.
Okay. Great.
Gianna says, they are interrelated. Motivate, talk the walk. Motivations nudge you towards a goal. Motivation, have to do. Inspire, want to do. Inspire means bear influence. Motivation is external and inspiration is internal. Inspiration helps you to desire and dream.
Okay,
Motivation to
you.
behave. Okay.
Thank you, thank you. So the definition, the real definition here comes and says, motivation is about the rewards that you are offered and the suffering you encounter, or the constant pumping yourself up to do the things that you think you should do or that you are supposed to do. So that's about motivation. Motivation is therefore external. You look for things external to yourself in order to get yourself up and going. Inspiration is that intense feeling that you get in your whole body that gets you and taps you into your greater sense of yourself and your purpose. And so inspiration is about internal and motivation is about external. And we need a combination of both. But the real inspirational leaders are those that can really deeply tap into the deep humanity and the deep meaning and purpose that each one of us has within us. And so as your most important role as a leader, what do you think that is? What do you think your most important role as a leader is? Let's type that into the chat. What's your most important role as a leader? Master Divine, anything yet?
Yes, to inspire.
Okay.
And five times to inspire, then give directions, inspire your followers, inspire.
Okay, you got the message. Your most important role is to be the Chief Inspiration Officer as a leader in this organization. And tapping into our district theme of then inspiring people to exceed expectations because every member matters. That is your most important role as part of this organization. And so what I want to offer you today is 3 questions that we will unpack through the rest of the session around what is inspirational leadership. And we need to start out then with, who am I? And some of the things we consider when we consider who am I as an inspirational leader is to say, what's my leadership style? Am I inspirational? You know, this is a journey I've been on for a while, and Andrew and I had a little chat about this because I don't see myself as being an inspirational leader. I see myself being more as a servant leader than I do as an inspirational leader, but it definitely is something that I've been working on for a while where I want to be more inspirational. The second question that we ask when we say, who am I as a leader, is what's the purpose and the meaning that I'm bringing, that I also need to align my team into? So what's the purpose and the meaning that we're aligning to? And then what do I offer as Karen? What do you offer as Zavai? What do you offer as Hannah to this world and to Toastmasters? Because each of us is unique. We bring something very, very different and very unique into each one of the areas of leadership that we're involved in. The second question that we're going to unpack revolves around who are others? Who are others to me, and who are others to the world and to this organization, Toastmasters? And some of the aspects we'll look at here is, what's my leadership intent with these people? Is this about me and about my growth and my development, and it becomes about me and you need to help me to reach my goal? Or is it about, we have a collective goal that we need to reach, and I'm here to serve you and to really help all of us to grow and to lead us to a place maybe that we've never been before? What's my leadership intent behind why I'm here and what I have to offer? And then what's the level of resistance that I'm getting in my fellowship? How are people responding to me? Because, you know, perception is 9/10 of the law. So, you know, if people are not responding to my inspiration, then what do I need to do differently to shift that? And then how full are the tanks, the energy tanks of my followers? Because you can't give what you don't have. And if you have an empty tank, you can't give to this organization as a leader. And I'm very glad to hear that the previous session was all about stress and time management, because you need to fill up your own tank first. And then how do you ensure that the people that you're leading have full tanks too? And then lastly, the third aspect that we'd like to unpack with you is, what are we to do then? And the aspects we want to talk about there is, how do we unite around our common goal? Are we clear about what that common goal is? How do we inspire with the language that we use? And how do we connect with our fellow members and our fellow leaders? How do we inspire the right behaviors? And then last but not least is, how do I use the tools that Toastmasters leaves at my disposal? And how do I leverage off of the leadership team that have gone before me and that are with me at the moment? And so that's where we want to go today through this process. So let's start out with the first aspect, which is, who am I? And so the first question here is, you know, we can't be inspirational if we don't understand what the definition of inspirational leader is. So again, let's type in the chat. In fact, let's not do the chat. So I maybe choose 3 people out of the audience to come on, to unmute and to tell us what their definition of inspirational leadership is, if you'll choose 3 people for us.
Any volunteers before I pick on the 3? Toastmaster Francoise, you had unmuted. Please go ahead.
An inspirational leader leads from behind.
Okay. Thank you.
Toastmaster Marilise, please go ahead.
Thank you. An inspirational leader for me is somebody who's value-driven. You know, the values are very, very important to them. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a good point. Thank you for that.
Then
Okay.
Toastmaster Valletta, you had unmuted. Do you want to go ahead?
An inspirational leader from my end, Toastmasters Ibai, is one who makes the followers feel comfortable to think beyond the box and achieve great things.
Super, thank you. Let's go with one more. I see Layla has her hand up. Layla, you're the last participant that we're going to speak with about this particular aspect. Layla, tell us what you think an inspirational leader is. Or who, I should say.
For me, an inspirational leader is someone who leads by example. That's how I feel is an inspirational leader. Thank you.
Super. And all of these are great points. Thank you all for participating in that particular process. A quote that I found found, which I thought really epitomizes an inspirational leader, is that if your actions inspire someone to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, then you are, and I'm going to add, an inspirational leader. And that's a quote from John Quincy Adams. Lovely quote. If your actions inspire someone to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, then you are an inspirational leader. I also like the work of Dr. John Maxwell. And this is some work that he did a number of years ago around the 5 levels of leadership. And I always look at this from my own perspective. Do I want to be a leader that leads from my position, where people follow me because they have to, or people follow me because of the authority that I have? Now, in Toastmasters, that's not really the case because we're all volunteers. But in an organization, if you have a leader in place and people are just following because they are put there as a leader and they're the authoritarian in the space. Do you want to build leadership relationships where people follow you because they want to? They see something in you that they really want to follow, and then they follow you from that perspective. Level 3 is about production. People follow you because of what you've done for the organization before. So Toastmasters, if I read a whole list for you of the things that I've done in Toastmasters. So many of you may not know me personally, but if you look at my biography and you say, well, she's been here for 21 years and she got the Toastmaster of the Year twice, but that should say something about her. I'll follow her because of what she's done, not because I know her personally. And that's really then about the results that I drove or the results that you as a leader are driving. But I want to really be a leader that, I don't know that I could ever be the leader at the pinnacle, but definitely I want to be a people development person who reproduces leaders. And in my year as vision director, that for me was about, I want to be a leader who develops leaders. And the people will then follow because of what I've done for them personally. And that's why I love being part of Toastmasters International's Lead TLI committee or TLI training facility, because people then know me. I don't always know them because there's so many of you, but you know me. And so because I've been able to teach you what to do, you could then perhaps choose to follow me from that perspective. But what's the legacy that you really want to leave is what you get when you get to the pinnacle, which is about respect. And this is about people follow you because of who you are and because of what you represent. And that's the ultimate in inspirational leadership. And so my question to you, so type this in the chat, where do you think you currently sit and where would you like to be? So those are the 2 questions. What's the level you currently sit at? And what's the level that you would like to be? And so I think for me, at this stage, I'm somewhere between production and people development. And I really would love to be somewhere between people development and pinnacle. So Toastmasters Divide, let's see what some of the people are saying in the chat box. What level are they saying they're at?
I'm coming.
We lose Toastmasters Divide. Selena, are you there?
I'm here. And so far we've had a few responses. Toastmaster Patricia says she's at the permission stage of leadership. Toastmaster Hannah says, I'm between production and people development. And we have TM Andrew saying he's at between 2 and 3. And we also have currently at level 2, would love to be at level 4 from TM Leah. TM Dadisa says, I'm at the production level. And TM Abigail says between permission and production. I also have.
Thank you. We can't go through 51 people, but thank you guys, because just by even typing it into the chat box, you're making an intention. You're saying, this is where I am and this is where I intend to go to. So well done. And those people on the line that know you, you need to hold each other accountable for shifting those levels after this LEAD Executive Development Programme. And so if we then want to reflect, and we then say, okay, given that we've already spoken about inspirational leaders shift you and help you to achieve your dreams, they help you to achieve things in life, what are the characteristics of an inspirational leader? So Selena, maybe if you can choose 3 people for me. I see Hannah has raised her hand, but if you can choose 2 other people for me after Hannah. Hannah, what's the characteristics of an inspirational leader?
Sorry, Karen, it's not so much that I wanted to answer this question, but I had a question for the last part that we just did.
Yes.
The level of leadership.
Yes.
Right. So what I've seen is with Pinnacle, what I feel is that I have to get to a certain age. I have things that I want to accomplish first, in as much as I want to. So maybe like, I feel like, okay, maybe by the time I'm like, right now I'm 36, I would like to be there when I'm 46 or 45. Is it still like something to say, like, I'm okay with where I am? Like, I still want to work more on people production for the next 10 years, but I feel like I could be Pinnacle at a certain age. I don't know if my question makes sense.
It does, Hannah, but what I want to ask you is, why do you want to box yourself into that? And actually, you might be that Pinnacle leader in your family. You might be in Toastmasters, you might be one level, but in your family, you might be another one. So why do you want to limit yourself to, I can only do that when I get to a certain age?
Okay, I hadn't thought of it that way. Thank you, Karen.
Okay, so while you're on,
Yes.
do you want to tell us what you think some of the characteristics of an inspirational leader are?
Yes, they do more than they say.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Okay, Selena, can you give me 2 other people that can tell us what they think the characteristics of inspirational leaders are?
Yes, we have Toastmaster Alia up next.
Alia, do you want to tell us what you think the characteristics are?
Hi, Karen. Firstly, I would definitely agree with Hannah. And I think someone who's an inspirational leader is someone who's definitely leading by example. For example, by being transparent, they are focused on the goal, but also someone who's demonstrating service and what that looks and sounds like.
Okay, and are you that leader?
I am striving to be that. I just started in a new job and I am sort of trying to live what I previously did. It's not that easy when you're in a new position or at a new place, but still going strong.
Fantastic. And in Toastmasters, are you living there?
Yes. Good challenge for me. I'm on the Exco team first time. I haven't been in Toastmasters very long, but working towards that as well.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. Okay. Selena, somebody else we can call on?
Yes, we have Toastmaster Abigail.
Okay. Toastmaster Abigail.
Hi, fellow Toastmasters. I think for me, an inspirational leader is very, very passionate, and it just comes through in whatever that they do. And it's that passion that people actually identify with, and they also want some of that. So I think that for me, what being inspirational is all about. And they're also knowledgeable. So people come to them for inspiration because they know that particular subject or that particular area as well. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. All right. So there's no right or wrong answer in any of these because it very much depends on who's following you. But these are some of the notes that I pulled through for myself. And they move people with a compelling vision. They take us where we actually would not have gone on our own. They inspire extraordinary performance. These are the people that can convince you to do anything and everything, that you will give so much of your discretionary effort to make sure that what they need done gets done, and what we need as a team gets done. They connect with people and they really create resonance. They connect on a human, person-to-person level. They embody, so that's the walk the talk. They embody ask others to do, they do themselves. They articulate their messages well. They're clear about what they want from their followers and where they want to take their followers to. And a big one is they ask and invite people to walk the journey with them. They don't tell or demand of their followers what they must do. And they make the work inspiring so that it doesn't feel like it's work. So maybe you want to just type in the comments again, which one of those or any others do you think really resonate for you? Which ones are you ones that would be an inspiration for you if you were involved with an inspirational leader? And Selena, as they come up, just read me 3 or 4 and then we can move on.
Okay, we have Toastmaster Edith who chose the second one, that is inspire extraordinary performance. And Toastmaster Busi said connect with people and create resonance. And we have Leah saying ask and invite. And Toastmaster John says make work inspiring. And Toastmaster Simon says move people with a compelling vision.
Okay, so they all resonate for you at different levels. And so what I want to ask you is that what is your competence and your commitment to being an inspirational leader? So if you've been on any of my training, Vice President Education or President training, you'll know that this is something that I teach because I'm passionate about this. This is called Situational Leadership, and it's a model that was designed by Ken Blanchard, who's a very, very inspirational leadership trainer. And so what is my competence and what is my commitment to becoming or being an inspirational leader? And so we start on the left axis here. On a score of 0 to 10, let's have people typing in the chat box. What level do you think you are already now in terms of your inspirational leadership? Put in numbers 0 to 10 for competence. Competence 1 to 10.
Toastmaster Deduzi says 7. Well, TM Will Scott says 6. TM Patricia says 6. The second, well, the first one was TM Patricia Gonda, and this one is Patricia Rada Vijason. Also, both of them saying 6. Rupa 7. Edith Nkosi, Dadiso Kamunda, Marlies Moda, Tungi Manyaza, Busi Churare, all saying 6. TM Nancy Chandiwana says 4 out of 10. Lisa Tatenda says 7.
If we now shift over, so Toastmaster Selena, in the chat box, won't you write the word commitment so that now we know there's a break between the first lot of numbers and the second lot? So just type commitment and press enter. Now I want you to say, how committed are you to being an inspirational leader on a scale of 0 to 10? How committed are you?
The first person we had was TM Francois saying 7 and growing, Naropa 10, Polo 7, Hannah 8, Francois 10. Oh, sorry, I think Francois was replying to the first one with a 7, and now with commitments 10. Marilis 10, Rumbizai 8, as well as Irina. Lisa says 9, Edith Nkosi 10, Busi says 8, Patricia Gonda says 10, and Nancy Chandiwana says 7. John Dara says.
So what we're seeing here is that generally people are more committed than they are competent. And I can work with committed people because you can teach people anything, but to teach them how to be in a relationship and to teach them attitude is very difficult. The competence for me, I think I sit at about an 8 because I never want to be arrogant enough to think that I know it all or that I have it all. So I think I'm sitting at about an 8. And then in terms of my commitment, I'm probably at about a 9. I'm committed to being an inspirational leader. So that's me. What you want to understand is that as a new leader, sometimes your competence may be even lower than that. And it's easy to be taught how to do things. It's harder to shift in terms of behavior. And so competence axis is about task behavior. It's about can I? And here, the inspirational leader, it's about finding direction and clarity. In order to shift numbers up at axes, you have to start to look for direction and clarity. On the other axes, the commitment is far more about my relationship with myself and my relationship with others. And here, this is about shifting guidance and support. And I highly recommend you go and do some research on the Ken Blanchard model around situational leadership and how you start to really play with these different aspects, because depending on which quadrant you end up in, depends on what kind of leadership style you need to apply so that you can meet the people where you are at, but also where they're at. And then if we move along from that, we then need to start aligning my personal purpose. You know, we all join Toastmasters for a particular reason. And this wonderful Japanese model really talks about what I love, what I'm good at, what I get paid for, and what the world needs. And the intersection between those various aspects is what brings the magic to that alignment. So if we align our passion and our profession, and that's the alignment between what I love doing and what I'm good at, then my personal and my professional life becomes satisfactory, or I'm more satisfied, I'm more content with what I'm doing. But sometimes the question or the shadow of that lingers in the back of my head is I have feelings of I'm not good enough. I don't actually know what I'm doing. If we then move on to the align my profession and my vocation, this really is about operating my, it's about how to operate in my comfort zone. And we want to go further than just operating in my comfort zone. We want to step out of that comfort zone and be more than just my comfort zone. And so here I may be experiencing feelings of there must be more to life than just what I get paid for and what I'm good at. And that is the link between profession and vocation. If I move on then to alignment between my passion and my mission, this is about experiencing delight and fullness. And many of us find this in Toastmasters and then end up sometimes with a little bit of burnout because we'd rather do Toastmasters than work. I remember having one of these conversations with Ed Corcoran, who was a past international director. At one point, he came out for a conference, and I was the person that was driving him around between appointments. And he said, actually, his job is his hobby, and Toastmasters is almost his full-time job. And so that brings delight and fullness. But Toastmasters doesn't pay the bills. And so there may be an issue here around our financial wealth that we can't be paid for Toastmasters. And then last but not least is the alignment between my mission and my vocation. And here, this is when I have a combination of what I get paid for is what the world needs. And the world needs inspirational leaders. So how do we use the hashtag real skills that we learn in Toastmasters to go out there and be inspirational leaders in our workplaces? And here it's about excitement, but maybe a little bit later could become a bit of complacency. And here this may also bring a little bit of a sense of uncertainty because we don't really know where the world is going at the moment. And so aligning my personal purpose and values as an inspirational leader to what Toastmasters as an organization needs and what my profession and my workplace needs, as well as what the world needs, is what may bring you the inspiration that you need to be a better leader. And so some of the points here or one of the things I want you to think about is in the chat, name some Toastmasters that you have encountered in this organization that you believe are inspirational Toastmasters. And so Selena, if you can give me some indication of what people are typing into the chat. So name some Toastmasters that you believe are inspirational leaders, that you believe can be your mentor in terms of, even if it's a mentor from afar, of how to be an inspirational leader. Helena?
So we have the first answer coming from Busi, and she said Zivai for her, Toastmasters Zivai DTM. And Gina Ropa said both the Zero brothers as well as Will Scott. Lisa Tatenda said Coach Zivai, and Patricia Radhavijasan as well as Madile Ramashamole and Riboni Gabo all said Andrew Zero. I also have Madila again saying Lazala Pele, and then TM Busi also coming back and saying Liza, but I don't know which Liza. Lisa Tasenda also said Andrew Zero. John Dera said Zivai DTM, as well as Patricia Gonde. Cindy Price said DTM Julie Yang. Hannah Tarindo said Lucinda Harmon. Simon Banda said both TM Zeros. Yes, that would be Frank and Andrew, as well as Tungi Mayenza also said the Zero brothers. Dadisa Kuminda said Coach Dorothy Chanakira, and Nancy Chandiwana said the Zero brothers. Riboni
Okay.
said Becky
Let's move. Thanks, Selena. But let's keep that going, because that actually gives us some indication of those are the people we need to be following. So thank you for that. So if we then move on to who are others, and here this is about what's my leadership intent, what's the levels of resistance that I'm receiving from my followers, and then let's talk a little bit about the energy tanks. So Simon Sinek, who's also a phenomenal leader, says that there are only two ways to influence behavior. You can manipulate it or you can inspire it. And I'm going to leave that to you to decide which one you want to be, because I've worked under manipulative leaders. And let me tell you, I couldn't get out of there quick enough. So we really don't want to be manipulating anybody into anything. What you want to do, though, is that you do want to plot your team competence, and perhaps even get your team to do this for themselves. And I've used this very successfully on club excos, as well as when I was working as an area director, to really understand from people, where do they see themselves? As a new club officer, when you're a leader at district level, an area director or a division director, and you're having to motivate people who are new EXCO members in clubs, helping them to understand where they're at, that they have no competence. They're coming in for the first time, they have a competence level of 2 or 3, but they have maybe got a high commitment on a 7 or an 8. Then you know that you can coach them, that you can help them to get to where they are. You can teach them what they need to know. But on some EXCOs, you have people whose arms are twisted to come onto the EXCO because there's not enough people in the club. And then their commitment level is at a 2 or 3. And it's difficult then to be able to convince people that they need to do things. Or alternatively, in some cases, and I've had many of these cases in my 21 years, I start out highly committed at a 7 or an 8. But then life happens, people at home get sick, or I get sick, or perhaps I change roles at work, and then I have a large workload. And then my commitment level to Toastmasters drops. This grid, if you use this at your EXCO meetings or at your team meetings, what they help you do is to have the right level of conversation. So, Corin, where do you think your commitment level is on a 0 to 10 this month? I'm actually feeling I'm sitting at about 3. Okay, let's talk about that. How, what's shifted from last month when you said that you were at a 7? And, how do we support you through that process? It allows you to have a very different level of conversation. And that's more inspirational than you saying, you said you would get the stuff out and now it hasn't been said. You haven't given me your, who's going to meet the different aspects of educational goals in your club. And as the area director, I've got to get I've got to put in my report. And, leaves a different feeling to it. So have the conversation around a tool like this is far more inspirational. And again, remember that competence relates to the task, whereas relationship is about the commitment. And I personally have found that when I have strong relationships with people, I don't want to let Andrew down. When Andrew phones me or sends me a message early in the week to say, listen, please won't you come and deliver this thing on Saturday? It's much harder for me to say no to Andrew because I have a good relationship with him. And it is if somebody that I don't know and I've never met comes and asks me something, it's easier for me to say no. The other thing is if Andrew phones me, it's even harder to say no. So think about how you approach those particular aspects when you are being inspirational. And so when I'm setting my leadership intent, the first thing that I need to do, I said that we need to have clarity. So I need to be clear as the leader. What do I want people to know? And essentially for me, that's, I want people to understand why my message that I'm giving to you today is important, not just to Karen, but to all of us. If we're all learning about inspirational leadership, then that's going to benefit the entire organization and every single one of us individually. Rather than me saying, listen, we all need to be inspirational. You know, you can't just tell somebody to be inspirational. You've got to take them on the journey with them. So what do you want them to know about inspirational leadership? And then what do you want people to feel? And you know that now in this day and age that we live in, a very high percentage of people are completely disengaged in their workplace. And we've seen in the last 2 years in Toastmasters that people have disengaged. And so what we want people to feel is we want them to feel engaged. We want them to feel included. We want them to feel involved. And we want them to have a deep sense of self and a deep sense of belonging. In those clubs and in those areas where the people become family almost, where they become deep friends, those are the areas where you have high levels of engagement. And you will notice, even in your areas and your clubs, you will notice and difference that if you are in a leadership role, the leaders are the ones that are driving the things. In many clubs, the Distinguished Club Program and the area Distinguished mostly is driven by the relationships of the people between those various aspects. And then last but not least, but what do you want people to do? And here, what I want them to do is to actively support the vision and the mission and to be very responsive to what we as a team are trying to achieve. Inspirational leaders have a clear message of what we want people to do. They have a clear message of wanting people to be engaged and involved, and they have a clear message about what's important to all of us and why and how we will get there. And it is for the greater good, not just because somebody wants to become a DTM. I've seen too many area directors that have taken up the area director role simply because they want to get to a DTM place. And I've seen when somebody drops out mid-year and they offer that role to somebody else, that person will sometimes turn it down because there's no qualification at the end of that. And sometimes that's a bit short-sighted because you still learn as you go along. You might not get credit for being the area director for 4 months, but you get a deep sense of learning in that process. And so some of the resistance that we find is at level 1, the resistance will be, I don't get it. I don't understand this. I don't know what you want from me. And so here, what we want to help people with is the context of what we're wanting. Level 2 resistance is, I don't like what you want me to do. So I'm going to avoid it or I'm not going to do it. I'm going to be completely resistant to that. And here, a lot of that relates to predictability. People are used to things in a particular way. And if you want to change the way things are done around here, then you've got to give me good reasons why you want to change it. And then level 3, which is a little bit more difficult to work with, is I don't like you. I don't like who you are. I don't like how you're showing up here. And so I'm not going to engage in this process. So here are some tips that you can use. Your level 1 is generally an intellectual reservation based on lack of information. So here what you do as a leader is you need to communicate better and more. And you need to involve people, enabling them to express their concerns and give them an opportunity to influence the events or the way that you're doing it. But this goes back to that original point where we said, ask me or invite me in, don't tell me or demand from me. The second thing is much more about my emotional connection to this. So it's an emotional or a psychological reaction. And here, what we want to work on is we need to engage in a dialogue. Why do I need you to do this? Why do we need to do this now? And what's the expectations of me as a leader? And what's the expectations of you as my follower? We need to ensure that people feel heard and understood, and that we know what their needs are and their expectations are, and we also need to understand what they're giving up by following you, because sometimes by saying yes to stepping up into a leadership role in area or division, it means they have to have less family time. It means they have to be working longer hours. They have to be more present. It things they have to give up, and so you have to understand how you have to influence and how you need to tell them why it's important and what's in it for them if they do follow you. You need to ensure that people can influence the outcome, because if you come as an autocratic leader, people are not going to want to be there. And then you need to ensure that people feel safe, protected, and valued in this process. And then last but not least, the last level 3 is also about an emotional or a psychological reaction, but this is to a person. And what we need is to communicate how our personal values. Yes, we may come from a different background, or yes, we may have a different age, but there's some fundamental values that we are in agreement with. So let's find the common ground and then work from the common values, rather than look for the things that we don't agree on, because that's always difficult. And then we need to build the relationships and repair any burnt bridges that might be there, where we've been rude or disrespectful to somebody, or somebody's been rude or disrespectful to me. I need to be able to have a different level of conversation. And it takes determination and persistence. And it helps us to resist this default behaviors of believing that there's only one right way. In many, many, many parts of our organization, there are people who have very fixed mindsets about the way something needs to be done. And so we need to be able to influence around that, and also be able to allow people to fail so that they can get the lesson that they need to get. So I'm going to stop there. Are there any comments that you want to make, or anything that you want to put in the chat around these particular 3 aspects of inspirational leadership and the resistance? Any comment? Or even if you want to put your hand up and come on mic or come onto the virtual stage and tell us what you're thinking so far, or what this means for you, or even if this is useful. Lena, anything?
Nothing so far. Okay, we do have a hand up. 2 hands up.
Okay.
We're going to. So we have Toastmaster Hannah, Tarinda, and I've added her to the spotlight now.
Okay, let's do just those 3. Okay, Toastmaster Hannah, what do you want to say?
Okay, I really like this aspect of assessing resistance, which is it's a very important thing. And I guess my addition, sort of like just listening to what you're saying, is when it comes to resistance, we need to listen also, to listen a lot. So so for example, with context, I think with the first level of resistance, yes, you can, it's about communicating and telling or while sharing, but the other two need a lot of listening, especially, and the hardest one obviously being level 3, where people can not want to follow you because they don't like you, and it's not necessarily personal. So for example, if I'm a woman, I'm a Black woman, and I can imagine myself trying to lead middle-aged white men, for example, then they are saying, yeah, but yeah, you know, even if it's a topic that they're not really sure of or that they think they should be sure of, then you kind of need to also then step back and listen and say, and get them to talk it out until you then say, okay, this is where we're at, but this is, I'm here because I'm competent and I'm committed to this process. But yeah, I think level 3 is very hard and needs a lot of practice in the modern world.
Especially in a volunteer organization, Hannah, because you know, what I've seen in this organization, and it doesn't even have to be a race thing. Sometimes it's an age thing, and sometimes it's an education thing. And then when there's conflict, people just leave instead of working it out and spending the time just trying to find a different way around this. They just leave. And, you know, then nobody wins. The club doesn't win. The area doesn't win. People don't win. You know,
so, but how
thank you for that.
But how then do we deal with people who leave?
Well, we can never force anybody to do anything. Remember, we're inspiring here. So perhaps it's about being humble and about having a different conversation and listening and saying, listen, I noticed you haven't come back. I know we had a bit of a disagreement, but, you know, can we talk through it? And invite them to that. If they're not willing, then, you know, there's not much we can do about that. All right, I'm going to take one more because we've still got one more section to get through. So let's take one more person who had to tell us what they think about this particular aspect.
So we have TM John there, and yeah.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. Hello.
Yes, I can hear you.
Hello. Yes, thank you very much. I think as leaders, we must actually start from level 1, because if we, that is where the wars come off. I've watched a video where someone was training a group of people, and they said you need to trust these your colleagues, that when you fall, they will touch you. They will catch you. So when he counted 1 up to 3, instead of that gentleman falling backwards where the other colleagues were to touch him, so to catch him, he fell forward. So that in that scenario, things didn't go well. That guy fell off and he got injured. So I think level 1 is also is equally important. We need to communicate clearly, and we need to make sure that our audience, they get what we're telling them. That is my contribution, Madam Zika. Thank you.
Thank you so much, John. I really do appreciate that aspect. It is about making sure that we communicate clearly. And so last but not least, team, what are we to do? And the Toastmasters specifically has a very well-established vision and mission. And so if we look at the Toastmasters International mission, it says we empower individuals to become more effective communicators and leaders. So first and foremost, what we're driving is for every single person who belongs to this organization to be empowering other individuals to become more effective communicators and leaders, and for us to empower ourselves to become more effective communicators and leaders. Then as District 74, the mission is to build new clubs and to support all of the existing clubs in achieving excellence. And so as district leaders, and that's cabinet members, division leaders, and division directors and area directors, and any of the coordinators that help in any of those different cabinet roles, every single one of us, the mission for us is about building new clubs and about supporting our existing clubs in achieving excellence. And if we unite around those aspects, as well as around our club mission, which is that we provide a supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. Then, ladies and gentlemen, we are all rowing in the same direction. And you know, there's another analogy. We won't have people in our boat who are drilling holes and thinking that everybody else in the boat is going to sink, because if I drill a hole in the boat that we're all in, we're all sinking. And that's what happens when there's conflict and we don't work with it and we don't listen and we don't inspire people to really connect in and to try and work through the differences that we might have. And so this inspiration is about helping every single person to get the growth and the learning that they need in order to be able to be a better human being. It's also about rewarding and recognizing and remembering the right behavior, and recognizing and rewarding and remembering the people who've gone before us and the people that are in the moment achieving the results that we're looking for, because that is very inspirational. When people are achieving around us, you know, when you have a candle and you light another candle, it's then two lights. Two of us can go out into the world and be inspirational. Whereas, you know, many people kind of go, well, I'm going to keep my candle and my light to myself. Well, a candle can light thousands, and we can all be inspirational leaders together. And we can start to think about how we leave those personal legacies. The personal legacy that I want to leave. So I want to build and I want to grow leaders who grow leaders. That's the legacy I want to leave. I want to grow leaders who grow leaders. And that people will say, that Karen Levy-Strauss, she made a difference in my life. My personal mission is to be a lifelong learner who inspires and encourages every person I meet to live into their full potential. And if you can come back and say that I contributed a little bit to you living into your potential, it means I've lived my personal mission. So what's the legacy you want to leave? And then it's about collectively, we work together to have great vision and area success. And we have these goals that we need to drive towards. So are we measuring and recognizing whether we are achieving the goals that we need to have? Do you even know what those measurements are that you're working towards? Because if you don't have a goal, then any road's going to get you there. And then inspirational language. I use this Toastmasters promise all the time, where we want to be remembering, even at district level, that we are still a member first and foremost. We still need to be contributing in here. And so to attend my club meetings and my district meetings regularly, to prepare all my projects to the best of my ability, basing them on the Toastmasters educational program, to prepare for and fulfill meeting assignments, to provide fellow members with helpful and constructive evaluations and feedback. When I've been in a session with somebody, I'm expecting you to give me feedback on how well I did or what I didn't do today that you were expecting, because that's going to help me to grow, to help our clubs and our areas and our divisions to maintain a positive and friendly environment necessary for all members to learn and grow, to serve my club as an officer when called upon to do so, to treat my fellow club members, area directors and division directors and our guests with respect and courtesy, to bring guests to club meetings so that they see the benefit, to adhere to the guidelines and the rules of all our Toastmasters educational recognition programs. And last year, I served with Edwina from Zambia and Michael Shackleton from Victoria and Hauret Ruele Molabolwe and somebody and Eric Vigi on the ethics committee. And I can't tell you how many people brought complaints to that ethics committee that could have been solved if two people were just willing to listen to each other. And so then to also act within the Toastmasters core values of integrity, respect, service, and excellence during the conduct of all Toastmasters activity. And if we use this Toastmasters promise, a pinky promise, then what we will build is accountability to ourselves, our clubs, our areas, our divisions, and our districts. And that accountability is what's going to keep us together and unite us and help us to be inspirational leaders. And so, in conclusion, let's have a look at who inspires you. And that doesn't have to be a Toastmaster. It can be a Toastmaster, but who inspires you in the world? Who makes you a better human being? Let's hear that. And let's come on mic for that. So if you'll put your hand up, and Selena will help me to select some people. Selena, if we can see if we can select some other people that we haven't heard from, and let's hear who inspires them.
Okay, we'll do.
We've got 99 plus, according to my little thing on the screen here. So let's see if we can find somebody different.
I have Tiambusi Chware up next, first up.
Okay, Busi, come on camera and tell us who inspires you.
I am inspired by a lady called Mam Kupe. She is amazing. She lives what she says. And when I grow up, I want to be just like her.
Woo! Thank you for sharing that. Okay, who else wants to come and tell us who they're inspired by? John. Okay, let's have John. He's only been on once. John, tell us who you're inspired by.
Look, I'm inspired by, but I support soccer.
Oops, your connection is not so great, John.
I'm inspired by Cristiano Ronaldo. Long back, hello, can you hear me now? Hello.
Okay. John, you're breaking up. I think let's move on. I got that you were inspired in soccer by Ronaldo. Okay, Selena, who's the next person? Is that Valenta?
Hi, I am inspired by my mother,
Ooh,
a woman. Yes, a woman of humble education, and knows that there is no limitation on this world to what you can achieve for as long as you're determined. Nothing and no one can stop you from achieving that which you want.
That's wonderful. That's beautiful. Thank you. Okay, Faso, come on screen and tell us who you're inspired by.
I'm inspired by Karen, Lynette, and Granny because of your tenacities. You know, your tenacity in the program. It makes me hold on to follow and never give back.
Thank you so much, Faso. And I told you this morning in your first club in Madagascar meeting that I'm inspired by you, by your engagement, by your willingness to learn. And so thank you for that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, I see we're running out of time, so I'm going to move on now. And I'm going to ask you to, I think in this one, let's rather than do the talking circle, let's type in the chat. What is one thing that you can do in the next 7 days to inspire somebody in your circle of influence. Type in the chat for us, what is one thing that you can do to inspire others in your circle of influence? And Selena, if you'll read just four
Yes.
that come up in the chat. It doesn't have to be the first four, but just choose four that come up in the process.
Okay, so I have Tiam Lukolong Nkosana saying listening wholeheartedly, and Scott saying set an example. I also have Patience saying I can start by believing in me in capital letters. And I have Andrew Kendall write a letter of encouragement.
Okay, so there's one thing, there is still some homework coming, but there's one thing that you can do, a small little thing that you can do that really will encourage the people around you. And so in closing, ladies and gentlemen, a leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way, is something that John C. Maxwell said. And okay, I'm not sure why my slide went. Okay, so a leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way, is something that John Maxwell said. And before we go into questions and answers, just to get a view from the audience, in the chat box, put the number that corresponds to the question, how confident do you feel to embark on your role as an inspirational leader after listening to this masterclass today? So after this masterclass today, how confident do you feel to embark on your role as an inspirational leader? And you can just type a number that corresponds. So 5 is very happy, very comfortable, and 1 is, I don't know where to even start. You can type some numbers in the chat box. And then, Madam, so I don't know if Savai's back, or Selena, if you're going to manage the questions and answers session.
She's back.
Okay, so Toastmasters Savai, I will control back to you to manage the questions and answers section.
Thank you so much to distinguished Toastmaster Karen for taking us through motivational, inspirational communication. As much as she took us through in terms of how we should be inspiring those that we are leading, personally, I was inspired during this session today. So thank you so much for that. And even bringing up the Toastmasters promise, that was a very good reminder for me. And I will also then ask the participants to say out of 10, just rate yourself and go through the promise, the Toastmasters promise, and see how you are doing out of 10, because there are 10 points there, 10 promises. So that would also remind us as leaders to say, how are we showing up and are we preparing? So thank you so much, DTM Karen, for taking us through that. I know we did not have our bio break. We were so engaged that we didn't get to have our bio break, but what we will do is go straight into the Q&A, and we can then end off as soon as we are done, and we call it an evening. So either if you would want to raise your hand if you have a question, or if you'd want to type your question in the chat box so that we can get your questions answered. If there are any people with questions, you can either raise your hand or you can type in the chat box. Any questions? Or it was so clear you have no questions, you are ready to go and implement what we learned this evening. Toastmaster Patricia, you can unmute and ask your question.
My question was on level 3. I wanted to find out how best we can align our personal values with the corporate values, because sometimes our personal values might be 180 degrees apart. How best can we align those? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. DTM Karen, did you get her question so that you can address it?
I did. So Patricia, the question to you is, do you have to change your values in order to work for an organization? And I found myself in that position a number of years ago where I had a misalignment between the organization's values and my own personal ones. And so I went and found myself a different job because I couldn't work in an environment where I didn't agree with the values of that organization. And so when I look for employment, or I look to join a club or an area or anywhere that I'm going to be working, a church, I want to make sure that my values completely align with those people I'm going to be working with. And it takes a bit of dialogue, it does. And so it's not about completely just step out of it. It's about, let's discuss what those values mean to me. So my value is authenticity. And sometimes I can overshare because it's important for me that you understand who I am and what I stand for. And other people, they want to be they don't want you to know anything about it. So, it's about a conversation then and about building that trust. So I hope that answered the question.
Yes, answered. Thank you.
Thank you. Then we have Toastmaster Benjamin. I see your hand. Please unmute and pose your question.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, DTM Karen. That was an insightful session that I've learned tonight. My question's closely related to the last questions that was just asked about values, and I'm really hard on culture. So I want to ask you, as an inspirational leader or even a motivational one, what role does culture play? Is this globally acceptable norms, or you need to tweak this for cultures, or you need to be sensitive to cultural, also I'll add values when you move around and you want to inspire or motivate across? I mean, if you now are beginning to become global. Thank you.
Such a wonderful question, Benjamin. And my role at the office right now is about building an organizational culture and building a learning culture. And that's slightly different, although pretty similar to how do I engage with a culture from a different country, from a different family value system to my family value system. And I think that there's still some common things that underpin the way we relate to each other. And so Toastmasters International value set is respect. And respect is a suitcase word. So what does respect mean to me? It's something that I need to unpack when I get into a relationship with Toastmasters Divai. I need to say to her, Divai, how would I show you respect? What is it in your culture that determines respect? And she's going to say to me, Toastmaster Karen, what does respect mean to you? And we have then a conversation and we agree how we are going to work together, because all of this is conversation based. And if I'm coming to visit your club, or I'm coming to visit your house, or I'm coming to visit your country, then the onus is on me to actually step into your shoes and into your space, and to not forget about my values, but to put my values, to keep my values lightly while we are engaging in this process. But if you're coming to visit me, then the converse works. Then you're going to step into my culture, you're going to step into the way I do things. And by stepping into each other's spaces and each other's cultures, we learn so much about each other. I know we have many countries on the line today, but in South Africa, there's a big thing that still historically sits as an elephant in the room around apartheid. 13 years ago, as a young white woman, I was driving into the middle of Soweto on my own to go and participate in a Toastmasters meeting and help those individuals in that club to grow their leadership and their communication skills. And my family was horrified. Oh, look going to get hijacked, you're going to get killed. And, you know, it was safer for me to drive around in Soweto than sometimes it was in my own neighborhood. But it was about stepping out of my comfort zone. And I have learned so much about culture and about other people and where they come from. And for that, I'm a better person and I've shifted some of my own belief systems. And I'm hoping that other cultures and other people that have engaged with me would be able to say the same thing, that because I was more open to hearing about their cultures, perhaps they'd be more willing to hear about mine. So it's all about relationships. And you can't inspire people that you don't understand.
Thank you.
Okay.
Do we have any further questions? I don't see anything in the chat box and no hands up.
There are a couple in the chat box. So Busi says, what do inspirational leaders do when they need to be inspired? So, Toastmaster Busi, that depends on who you are. If you're asking what does Karen do, well, I do a number of things. The first thing that I always do is that my faith is very deep. So I'll go and look for a sermon. That if I'm having a struggle with conflict or anger management, I will go and look for a sermon by, you know, John Maxwell or Louis Giglio or somebody out there that I really admire and listen to what they have to say so that I can be inspired to maybe shift and change how I'm seeing things, what I'm seeing. Sometimes it's about searching on Pinterest for what are the benefits of inspirational leadership. I did a whole lot of Google searching while I was busy preparing for this particular assignment. So I go and find my inspiration somewhere else. And then I also find inspiration by visiting other clubs. So just this morning, Faso invited me across and I went to go and present at his club. But what really excites me is when I'm seeing new Toastmasters coming into this organization and really growing and developing. I visited their club about 6 months ago, and just seeing the shift in that 6 months is hugely inspiring for me. So those are things that inspire me. You're going to have to ask yourself the question, what inspires you and what gives you energy and what fills your tank? Toastmasters, I think there's 2 more in there. How do you deal with a subordinate who doesn't like you, that they are incompetent, but the organization doesn't want to dismiss such an individual? So, no, I don't know the situation behind this. And, you know, I'm happy to have a conversation offline if you do want to have the conversation, but also remember that we have the ethics committee. So you can reach out to the ethics committee. I've since stepped off of the ethics committee because I'm trying to get a professional coaching qualification and I just don't have enough time for all the Toastmasters things that come across my desk. So, you know, really it depends on the circumstances and, you know, have a chat with maybe a really experienced Toastmaster and reach out and try and find what you need. You know, sometimes that projection of somebody doesn't like me isn't necessarily that somebody doesn't like me, but they don't like what I'm doing. And there's a big difference between not liking me and not liking what I'm doing. And if you can separate those 2 things, you might be able to find a resolution behind that. Okay, back to you, Toastmasters Vai.
Okay, one other question from Toastmaster Nancy. How easy is it to restore burnt bridges and build relationships where people have lost hope, trust, and commitment?
Sure, there's a couple of these, hey? Okay, again, you know, it always starts with me. How am I showing up in that relationship? Am I showing up as having to be right? If I am, we're not going to move this relationship anywhere because I have to be able to be humble and to really be able to listen, to deeply understand. You know, even Kavi has that. Seek first to understand before you seek to be understood. And if you start with that, and you really want to fix something, then you come with a soft heart, you come with a soft tone, and you say, look, I get the sense that there's something not quite right in this relationship. Would you be willing to work with me for us to try and get to resolution around this? If we can both really listen through this process. So that's step one. If that doesn't work and you work together on an exco or in some kind of a leadership role with that person, then I recommend you maybe get some kind of a mediation going. And as I said, there is the ethics committee, but also there's also many very experienced past leaders in your clubs, in your areas, in your divisions, and in your district. And so reach out to those and then try and get somebody to help you to mediate that conversation. You know, not everybody does want to work something out. So you also have to get to a place of saying, I've tried what I can to fix this relationship. It takes two people to fix a relationship. If one person's not willing, then you also have to be willing to walk away from that. I hope that helps.
Thank you for your response, DTM Karen. I will now ask you to give the assignment for session number 9, our homework, so to speak.
Okay, so I thought long and hard about this. And my homework to you is I want you to go out in the next week and I want you to create something that's going to inspire a community within Toastmasters. So that can be your club, it can be you know, just a team of people that you put together, whatever it may be. I want you to find a place where you are going to inspire a community. And I want you to then write a plan around how you're going to do that. And that's going to be the three questions that we had at the beginning. Who am I? How am I showing up here? How do I want to show up? The second piece is around who are others. So are others my ends to me getting DTM, or others is I'm here to serve them? So who are those others? And go back and listen to the recording and just see what you want to pull through in that. And then the last piece is what are you going to do to inspire that particular community? So it's which community am I going to inspire? Who am I to that committee? Who are they to me? And what are we going to do? What am I going to do to inspire them to do something for the greater good of this Toastmasters organization? Does that sound like a reasonable piece of homework, Toastmasters of I?
Yes, it does. And it will cement everything that you took us through today. And I like the fact that we are then going back into our Toastmasters community to actually implement that which we have learned. So thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
Well, there you have it. Session number 9, done and dusted. It's now up to you, the individuals, to then do your homework. I just want us to light up the chat box. Let's have the hearts, the hand claps, and let's thank DTM Karen for being with us this evening and taking time and just to share with us and to inspire us in the process, helping us how we too can go out there as leaders and inspire those that are in our circle of influence. So thank you so much to you, DTM Karen. We really appreciate. And I'll ask everybody to turn on their videos so that we can have our photo moment. Thank you to our Zoom masters, Toastmaster Sigrid and Toastmaster Selena. If we can then all turn on our videos. Then in terms of our closing remarks. As I've said, this was session number 9. We only have one more session to go, which we will have next Saturday. So that's our final session. And that's on the 4th of December, same time, 6 p.m. Central Africa time. And we will be looking at strategic thinking and legacy contributions. So I look forward to you showing up for that final one next Saturday. Then in the new year, we will have our celebration event, and we'll be then giving out your certificates of attendance. And once the DLC, the District Leadership Committee, announces that nominations are open, we are looking forward to a lot of you applying and volunteering yourselves to take up roles within district for the upcoming Toastmasters year. So keep your smiles permanent. I am not sure when the slides will come to you or they've already been. I will wait for a thumbs up or communication from our Zoom masters. Toastmaster Sigrid, I can already see notices, yes, and you've sent photos already.
Yeah, just
great. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone for having come out this evening. And we look forward to you submitting your assignments. We will get to share them in the group as well. And I'll send through a follow-up, our weekly email with the assignment. And we'll create a folder within the Google Drive for you to upload your assignments. Because I'm sure DTM Karen would also want to read what plans you have of inspiring your community. Thank you so much. My name is DTM Zivai, and I'm the Program Director for this Executive Development Program. And I am thoroughly enjoying serving all of you during this 10-week program. Thank you, everyone, and good night.
Goodbye. Awesome meeting.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.